welcome to the Goldenrod Podcast, bringing you some of the latest and greatest Pokemon news and a few laughs along the way. I'm Ben, and as always, I'm joined by fellow Pokemon enthusiast Conor. Before we begin, you can jump around the podcast by using the timestamps in the description below. Conor, what have you been up to this week?
This week, I have been actually getting out the house a little bit more than I usually do. So I finally bit the bullet. I went away for New Year's, as you well know, because I came up to see you as well. And I had no sort of a laptop. So for 2.5 weeks, I had no access to any of my YouTube stuff. I couldn't do any work. I couldn't even do any of my finances and stuff like that. So it was a real nightmare. I decided, you know what? I'm just gonna go get a laptop. I can't do that again. So it arrived. I'm really happy with it. And I decided, you know what? I've got this now. I don't have to sit in my room that's dark all the time because I've got my audio blanket over the windows that's constantly blocking out the light. I'm going to go out. I'm going to go to cafes, and I'm going to be that guy who sits in cafes and does work there.
Love it.
So I've been writing scripts in cafes this week. It's been great. It's been really good.
I like that. Like, whenever you see one of those people just sat on their own on a laptop in a coffee shop, like, I want to know what their story is. What are they doing? Like, why aren't they at home? Like, do they just, like, work better when they're outside the house? Do they like to maybe go there and be social? Are they waiting for somebody? Are they working on, like, whenever it's a TV show or something like that, it's always, they're working on the script. They're always working on a script. Apparently, that's true. Yep. It's true. People that are in cafes on their laptops are just writing scripts.
Well, I had a friend of mine who started working from home long before it was the norm. When you still could go out. And he made a special effort. He was like, no, every other day I will walk down to the cafe and I will do my work there, because it allows him to just get out. Where people overlook, and well, maybe not so much anymore after the pandemic, but people forget that, working from home generally means that you don't have to leave your house. So you don't. And that's not healthy. You need to get out. You need to go and see sunlight and see the world and stuff.
Oh, definitely.
Plus, just seeing different walls sometimes is super helpful. So it's a mental health thing more than anything.
Yes, definitely. And I will admit, sometimes, like, I work from home about half the week. And some days when, I don't know what it is. Some days I'm just really productive, get my head down. It's absolutely great. And then there are some days where being alone and not talking to anyone really gets to me. So then when my wife finally comes home, I'm like, right, okay, we're going out for a walk. I need some fresh air. I need to relax. I need to kind of I love my house, but I don't want to feel like I'm ever locked in my house, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yes.
I just want you to tell me I can leave if I want.
Yes, pretty much. But when you're having to when you just sat in your office all day looking at the same screen, doesn't matter what music you're on, what YouTube videos you've got on, it doesn't, like, compensate for real interaction and being able to talk to people.
No. So that's my week. How have you been?
I've not been too bad, to be quite honest with you. Obviously, I'm going to toot my own horn a little bit. Like, published the latest challenge video, the
about ready time.
About time. And you know what? It caught up in the algorithm, not to the degree I would love, but like, when you're on YouTube and you have that little grey bar that shows you, oh, this is how your videos usually do, like, whoa, it skyrocketed past that, which made me suddenly realize I really do need to get another one out there rather pronto. But we'll talk more about that in the plug section. Other than that, I'm ill again, so that's always nice. But no, I know. I don't know what's going on with me. But other than that, I've had a really, really good week, a really productive week. And obviously we're here recording again, which I always look forward to.
Love to hear it. What are we talking about today then, Ben?
We are talking about Pokemon controversies. It just feels like everything has come together, and maybe not in the most positive way. There's been a lot of disagreements. There's been a lot of issues in the Pokemon community, and we are here to give you the definitive answer. Probably not. But we thought we'd, throw our 2 pennies in and have a conversation about it. Starting with just what has happened.
The worst thing.
Yes.
$4,000 game has been destroyed by customs, by US customs.
So a Water, which I've never heard of. So apparently it's a grading company. I'm sure most people have seen it, where you get a game, a comic, a trading card, whatever it might be. They seal it in a plastic case, and then they usually have a little strip at the top, a bit of paper, cardboard, whatever it will be, that breaks down what it is and the grade of it. So for the longest time, people have been sending off their Pokemon games to be graded. Somebody, a friend of Stephen Kirk from Night Dive Studios, which I've never heard of, sent off...
Stephen Kick.
Stephen Kirk, right. What did I say?
Kirk.
Oh, sorry. Has said... I've even got it written down as Kick here, so I have no idea what's going on. So sent off a copy of Pokemon Yellow to get it graded. It got graded. And then on its way back, it has been destroyed at the US Customs. And if you're on Twitter or any kind of Pokemon news site, you might have seen the image. But basically, they have ripped open the plastic protection. They have basically just destroyed the Pokemon Yellow box that it comes in. It is wrecked. It is no longer worth whatever it was worth. Like, this is
So can I jump in here?
Yeah.
Because that's not quite true.
Oh, go on.
So I'm reading the Kotaku article here.
Okay.
And it appears that this wasn't the person who bought the game goes by the Master of Unlocking. They did not buy the game straight from Wata. It was not their game. They didn't send it off to go get graded. It was a second-hand purchase that was sent internally through American Customs. It passed American Customs on one side, and then when it arrived to the Master of Unlocking, as you say, he found the Pokemon Yellow case with its front ripped off, the casing smashed open, and the seal, the holographic seal ripped off.
Whoa.
Why has this happened? As far as anybody can guess, maybe they thought there was drugs.
Which surely there's ways to check it without ripping it open, whether or not that's, some kind of a sniffer dog or whatever technology have, X-ray. I don't know. It just feels like ripping this open. Like, maybe, to be fair though, to us that, enjoy video games and seeing things graded, like, it's probably a common thing to see for people in our, in our social groups and communities. People that are working in customs might not have ever seen this before and have just seen that looks like, sometimes they might have cuddly toys that they use to move drugs around because no one suspects it because, it's a child-friendly kiddie thing. Like, maybe they've seen this and gone, like, why would a Pokemon thing be in a plastic case? That doesn't make any sense. And therefore, they've just assumed, thought, whatever. Because, like, from their point of view, they were probably just doing their job. Which
I don't know, though, because it's gone through customs, which means it'll have been signed for as a collectible and as worth so much. Because that's the thing. So when you send things, they have to be priced up.
Yes.
You have to tell them how much it's worth.
So they know the value then before they've done this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So what happens now? Do they get to claim...
They get sued? Do they get
I don't
back?
know.
We have no idea. And unfortunately, with these kind of stories, there's very little follow-up that we get to see.
Yeah, normally it's that initial outrage, and then you don't ever hear a follow-up, or if you do hear a follow-up, it's like a random comment several years down the line when it's reposted on whatever social media platform is like up and coming. This has made me a little bit worried though, because I want to send off my Fire Red to get graded because I've got the box, it's got all the internal stuff, it's got the game. A little bit worried though, to be honest with you.
Well, to be fair, this isn't necessarily what I'd be worried about. This is a very one-of-a-kind situation, shall we say. I've got to be aware of what I'm saying now because we were on a podcast, which technically means that we're reporting, which technically means we're liable for anything we say.
Right.
What Games is being sued at the moment for market manipulation.
So is that... I think I've read about this. It's not just... It's what any of them can do where, let's say you have 10 things that are valued, you sell them to yourself to inflate the price because
I haven't looked into it too much, but yes, they have been inflating the price of retro games specifically to earn a profit, which is being classed as market manipulation, and they are currently in a class action lawsuit.
Oh, okay, this is going to be interesting. I want to know more about that as and when anything happens.
Well, unfortunately, it's a class action lawsuit. These things take
a long time. Well, we'll still be doing the podcast in like 10 years, so we can.
Of course,
we'll come back to it at some point. Should we move on to the next piece of controversy?
Oh, the word! This is so stupid. Yes. Pokemon community, I love you, but you're so stupid sometimes.
So apparently, if you playing Pokemon have caught a shiny Pokemon, one of those rare Pokemon, in a quick ball, it's worthless.
You're a scrub.
You're the worst. Like, just stop listening to this. Don't stop listening to this podcast. Basically, people are some section of the community is up in outrage because using a quick ball is seen as devaluing a shiny Pokemon because you haven't there's less challenge in catching it.
So
is that it?
From what I could trace this story back to, the argument actually started as color coordination.
Okay.
You shouldn't use a quick ball because it barely goes with any Pokemon. It doesn't color coordinate correctly. You should always use the Pokeball that correctly color coordinates with the shiny, regardless of the difficulty. Of course, that got picked up and thrown back as, how dare you tell me not to use a quick ball? If I want to use a quick ball, I'm going to use a quick ball. Especially, and people have brought this up a lot now, with Scarlet and Violet, when you're using sandwiches, which are on a time limit, you don't want to be wasting those. So yeah, quick balls all day, every day. Let's go.
Yeah, like, what? Okay, right. To me, though, like, it just seems a silly argument because, okay, color coordinate to your Pokemon. Well, it's not as simple. Some Pokemon, yes, dead easy to color coordinate. Others, not so much. And I'm not being funny, and I can't think of a Pokemon off the top of my head, but the Dusk Ball, to me, is one of the ugliest looking Pokeballs imaginable. I don't want to be catching a Pokemon that's color coordinated in that Pokeball. I don't care because it's just ugly. But also, it's like, okay, why have we suddenly latched onto color coordination and not, well, actually, that Pokemon is caught in a cave and therefore a Dusk Ball is the most, what's the word I'm looking for here? Like, effective? Like, why would you not be looking at that? Or not even effective, more along the lines of, like, it's the Pokeball that makes sense for its natural habitat. Like dive balls on water Pokemon.
That's certainly one way to look at it. But let's not forget that shinies at this point are a collector's item.
Yeah.
And people have always gone above and beyond when it comes to their collectibles.
Oh, yeah.
Like we've literally just talked about a game that's 25 years old being worth $4,000 kind of thing. So I can understand where people are like, no. So for instance, Shiny Roaring Moon looks like a lure ball.
Right.
Its colors and its patterns and everything looks spitting image of a lure ball. I'd quite like to have one in a lure ball. I've even done it myself. So for instance, Kyogre. Have you never tried to catch Kyogre in a Great Ball just because it matches?
Oh, I probably have at some point, to be quite honest with you, when I was younger.
And the thing is, if you spent thousands of hours, which some people do looking for these shiny Pokemon, when you get it, you want it to be right. And the thing is, there's an argument of, well, no, you want to make sure you catch it, which is fair. That's a valid argument.
Yeah.
And it's the argument I would take. I mean, I'm going to put my hands up here and say the Great Ball is my favorite Pokeball of all time anyway. Swiftly followed by the Dusk Ball. So, yeah, I know, right? But I can understand at that point being like, no, I've worked for this. Now I want it to be the best this can be.
Okay, I can understand from that point of view. From my point of view, like, it doesn't... Like, the majority of shinies you catch, like, if you are a collector, if you just do it as a hobby, if you just see a shiny and think, oh, I'm just going to catch it. Like, the majority of shinies, but I'd say the majority of people sit in a box and are never used, never shown, and the only way you would see that Pokeball is if you are in the box and you click on the Pokemon. It's like, and then there's a little icon, typically, depending on which game you're playing, how it looks in Pokemon Home, Pokemon Go, whatever it might be. So, for the majority of people, in the majority of Pokemon, this argument just seems, and it is pointless, because it doesn't matter. It really does not matter. And it's just a sign of the community just up in arms over something which, I can't remember if you already mentioned this before the podcast or during the podcast, that we can't find the source for. We can't find the one person who's responsible for this outrage. So it really doesn't matter. Like, at the end of the day, just catch your Pokemon in whatever you want. Quick Ball, Pokeball. Heck, if you want to use a Master Ball and a shiny Magikarp, go for it. It's your game at the end of the day.
So apparently this, pardon me. Apparently this story has developed even further, and now the Pokemon Company is getting involved.
No, what?
There's a post from the official Pokemon TCG channel on Twitter. That's just Quick Ball appreciation post. It's just one of the big golden Quick Ball cards. Oh my god!
Oh, I saw that. Yes, I saw that.
That's amazing. It's unnecessary, but it's amazing. Yeah, as far as I'm aware, as far as I'm concerned, sure, have your opinion. Just don't gatekeep.
So
that's my one rule.
Yes,
always don't gatekeep.
So I have to wonder if the reason this, the reason why this has happened is, and I was thinking about this because there is people that say, "Oh, I'm going to complete a shiny living dex." Like, you have to draw a line somewhere because it is impossible to complete a true shiny living dex because you've got Pokemon, then you've got the genders, then you've got things like natures, terra types, special Gigantamax type. It's like, where do you draw the line on this? So everyone has to have that limit of, okay, well, I'm just going to try and get a shiny of my favorites. I'm going to try and get the shiny of each Pokemon, but I'm not really fussed about gender. Then there might be people going, well, I want a shiny of every single version of Vermilion's different types, for example. And it feels to me this has come from potentially somebody who is maybe trying to justify the value of shiny Pokemon now that shiny Pokemon are getting easier and easier to find and catch compared to, the first couple of generations when, there wasn't a shiny charm and there weren't ways to transfer it over and there weren't ways to increase the odds of getting a shiny via SOS or whatever the current gimmick is. Because let's be honest with you, like, for me, it's more about shiny Pokemon are becoming more and more common. Like, you only have to jump into online fights, and it seems like everybody just has at least probably one or two shiny Pokemon on their team. And in the grand scheme of things, they don't make a difference. They're not better in any way. They just have a different color palette.
No. And that, to me, shinies have never been... Right, so I've never shiny hunted.
No?
That's a lie. I have technically shiny hunted, but that was mostly just Dynamax Raid Adventures.
Yeah.
I've never gone out my way to hunt for a shiny because to me, and this is personal opinion, and I do not take away from anybody else who does shiny hunt. You are entitled to play this game however you wish. To me, sorry, making all the...
Getting the defense
Don't
up there.
shoot me, please. I know people feel very strongly about this. To me, if you are going out and hunting for them, you are immediately devaluing what they are, which is a surprise. A really rare and special thing that should happen, and that's the fun moment.
Yes.
To me, if I'm going to be sat there for hundreds and hundreds of hours and then go, oh, right, we finally got it. Okay, cool. Let's go do the next one. It doesn't do anything for me. I understand it does for a lot of people.
Yeah. It's that hit, isn't it? Of, I finally got it after, 1,000 resets or whatever it is. Now, I have shiny hunted in the past. I've done it on live streams for Let's Go Eevee. I have done it in my own personal time on on the 3DS in the Ultra Wormholes because the odds are better for legendary Pokemon. So I have done it in the past. And, I would love to one day have a living, shiny dex. However, I'm not one of those that is willing to devote a load of time to the point where once shiny Pokemon started to become a lot more common in Pokemon Go, like that kind of was the tipping point of, well, I don't need to do it on the other consoles because at some point, most of these mons will be available in community days with increased odds, and therefore I can just catch them in that and transfer them over. Don't get me wrong, and there are some shiny Pokemon that I absolutely love and I do want, but then there are some that I'm really not fussed about getting, like Onyx, like the green tint. Like I'm not that fussed about. I guess at the end of the day, like people like do whatever you want to do, but don't, like you say, Conor, don't gatekeep other people's methods of shiny hunting, because it wouldn't surprise me if there are some, purists out there that go, oh, Ben uses Pokemon Go to catch shiny Pokemon. Well, they're not the main games, and therefore they have less value because the odds of getting them are higher. I don't care what the odds are. Like, if you want to sit there for days on end resetting, like, I've not got time for that. Like, if I can increase my odds whatever way I can to get a shiny Pokemon that I want, I'll take it.
Agreed. And there are some people who will actually try and gatekeep that as well and say, no, it's from Pokemon Go, it doesn't count. There are some people who say if you use a shiny charm, you're cheating. And it's completely arbitrary rules that you are putting on yourself.
Yes.
Which is fine to do. Don't try and impose those on other people.
Definitely not. But if you enjoy shiny Pokemon, you do you. As long as you're not hurting anyone else, you do you. Should we move on to we've got like a scale here. So if the first controversy was about a 4 out of 10, 3 out of 10, second one was about 7 out of 10, 6, 7.
Yeah.
This one is probably a 9 in terms of controversy.
I guess so. People were up in arms about it.
People were up in arms. This is baffling. What were you going to say? Sorry, Conor.
I was going to say it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm just exasperated at this point.
So we've had the official artwork drop for Generation 9 Scarlet and Violet, and people aren't happy, as Pokemon community is never happy. So, Conor, do you know like why people aren't happy about this?
So there are many opinions, as is always the case with the internet. From what I could gather, people are up in arms about two things. One is that they don't think these Pokemon, these new official art, look as good as previous art. They don't look as expressive. There is also another argument that the official artwork looks too much like the 3D in-game models.
Okay, so when you mentioned this to me, I started scrolling just down by the list, and there were some that I was like, well, they just look like, I don't get the issue, but there are some that I will agree maybe don't look as exciting as I would like. So what I decided to do, and I thought this in my opinion was the best way to do it, was to take the Pokemon that have new designs and compare them with the old ones. So, for example, Jigglypuff and Screamtail, Toedscool and Tentacruel. What else did I have? Dunsparce and Dunsparce. And, like, it's interesting because some of them, for example, like you just mentioned about they don't seem expressive. Like, Dunsparce is way more expressive than Dunsparce. Dunsparce's artwork is boring. It is flat out boring. Dunsparce, at least it looks like it's doing something. But then you've got the flip side where Quagsire looks really happy and excited, and he's got his open mouth, and Clodsire is just there with a derpy look on his face. Now,
yeah. Which arguably, though, is that not the personality of Clodsire?
This is it. Like, this was like kind of the rabbit hole I went down, where in terms of the Pokemon's expressive nature, just scrolling down the list, most of them to me kind of feel like how they do in game. With the and I will say there is the odd exception where I'm thinking, okay, there are parts in game. So Cyclozar is a good example where it looks really boring in the artwork, in my opinion. Whereas in game, like if you've ever used it, once it wins a battle, it kind of does this like dinosaur roar, and that would have looked, in my opinion, a lot better and would have been a lot more expressive. But at the same time, if they make all the Pokemon expressive, like, surely it just takes away from it a little bit, because there are some great expressive Pokemon. Like, Maschief it is really expressive. It's got that little, it's got a grin on it. You've got Pawmot and Pawmo that are in battle poses. You've got Smoliv with that, derpy-looking, like, worried face on it. Like, you've got Fuecoco with his, his happy little open mouth. The majority of these, like, if this artwork had been released 5-10 years ago, I think people would have been happy with it. But because we go through that typical phase of, new Pokemon come out, the majority of older fans are like, nah, the new Pokemon they don't feel like Pokemon, they don't look like Pokemon, and then give it 2-3 years, people are like, oh yeah, the Gen 9 Pokemon are my favorite. Gen 10 gets released. And the same people are going, oh, these Pokemon don't look like Pokemon. The Game Freak have lost their, creativity. They're all boring. I'm sorry, but like, Generation 1 literally had a bird, a rat.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? Like, the creativity comes and goes. And while some of these, I will admit, aren't expressive, like, there's a lot of them that are. And
that's part of the issue I have with it, is that some of them really are expressive. So some of the ones that like I otherwise didn't like, Iron Thorns, Sandy Shocks, they really look quite fun here.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Like in their official artwork, I think I like them a lot more than I do in game. And yet there are other ones where, so like Cetitan. Now, to be fair, we've seen Cetitan's artwork before because it was one of the first Pokemon revealed, but it's just kind of standing there. The biggest one for me is Glamora.
Yeah, Glamora is the one that stood out for me as well, because in game, when you use it, it opens up its kind of petals. It looks beautiful. I don't know if you've ever terrestrialized that Pokemon.
Oh no.
Oh, it looks gorgeous. Like its petals open out, its eyes glow. It's absolutely beautiful. But I will admit, on this one, it does look a little bit boring and dull, doesn't it?
The other thing I noticed is when you look at Glamora on here, it stands out because it seems to have been colored very differently to the rest of it. And that's when I noticed this is maybe the first real generation where I can look down these and go, oh, I can see where different artists have done this.
So
for instance, it looks like different artists have done Palmy, Pomo, and Palmot.
Yeah, because they all three of them, like, I can look at them and go, yeah, I know they're related, but I will agree that they don't feel like it's a natural progression.
Which is strange. It just, the art is slightly too different between each of them.
Agreed. So
the other thing is, if you look at Nimble,
yes,
you can see that classic, you can see the classic watercolor style, and then you go to something like Dash Bun, and it's like, oh, no, that's just block colors. It's just cell shading. Okay.
Well, it's not just
which
that.
Is it? Why is there no cohesion amongst all this artwork?
Agreed. And I think that is the thing that stands out for me, because it's one of the things that stood out for me was the black outlines. So if you look at the older Pokemon, they all have that kind of thin black outline that is broken in places, like it's been sketched with a pencil and the pencil's kind of not been pushed on as hard in certain places. And the more modern ones, some of the more modern ones don't have that. So if you look at Jigglypuff, where, when you get the image up and you look at that black, it's got a thick black outline that goes around it, but it isn't consistent all the way around. Whereas Screamtails is, it's a lot thinner, and it hasn't almost got those breaks in it.
Interesting.
And that was the thing that stood out to me. And another example is if you look at Dunsparce and then Dunsparce, like, you can really see the outline, and I think that, like, the faded color, the new ones look a lot more vibrant. And I think they, to me, are the things that stood out more than the expressions. And I'm not saying that this new art style is bad. It is just different if you compare the older Pokemon with versions in this game that are like evolutions or Paldean versions, whatever it might be. So that there is a difference. I mean, I don't think it's enough to get up in arms about, because some of the artwork for this generation is gorgeous, like absolutely gorgeous. Like looking at like the likes of Tinkertuff. Who else? I'm just scrolling up now. Annihilate. Like, you can't look at Annihilate and go, "Oh no, that's not great." It's a gorgeous piece of artwork to look at. And
the Dondozo is probably one of my favorites.
Oh, I love
that. But again,
that.
because it's got that expression in it, it's got
Yes.
the movement. You can see it's more of got like an eel-like body.
Yeah.
That you don't usually get in game. Whereas
Yes.
there are some of them where I'm just like, oh, really? That's what you went with?
Flamigo
Like,
is a good example.
Brute Bonnet.
Yeah,
there.
It's just really disappointing. Some of them are disappointing, and it does, like, there is a little bit of that thing of, you know, in The Incredibles where it's like, if everyone's special, nobody's special. And it's like, if all of them had these amazing expressions, maybe the ones that truly deserved the limelight maybe wouldn't stand out as much. But I will admit that some of them do seem like the designs of some of them are a little bit strange. I want to say I can't quite, like, sorry, I say strange. Like, they've obviously some of these Pokemon, they've done the artwork and they have made a creative decision behind the way that they look, the way that they stand. And I'd like to know a little bit more about that person, because some of them are very expressive, very in the middle of fighting or in the middle of action or in the middle of doing something. And then you do get the occasional ones where it's like Sir Titan, for example. I'm pretty sure that was released at the very start of the marketing cycle, wasn't it? Like really early. So was it when they weren't really sure on the expressions in game? Because if I look at Sir Titan, I'm just trying to figure this out here. Like, if I was to look at Sir Titan's like character there, the artwork, I wouldn't quite know where its mouth is.
Yeah, but you're not supposed to with Sir Titan.
I guess so.
To be fair, I like a lot of the new Pokemon.
Yeah,
I think a lot of them have grown on me. I think when I first played through the game, I was like, no, I don't like any of these. But a lot of them have grown on me. As far as this artwork's concerned, it's fine. Yeah.
I think
it is just fine though.
So,
and again,
right,
it's that inconsistency that's killing me. When you look at it as a whole.
Okay. Inconsistency between
the art style.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah, I do get what you mean. Like, if you go back and look at Generation 1, they all felt like they were, and they might not have been, but they all felt like they were done by the same artist. They all had that same art
they were
style.
All finalized by Ken Sugimori.
Right.
Because, so for our audience who don't know, in the first generation, the Pokemon were designed as sprites first. So they were all designed in-game on the sprite creator. And then Ken Sugimori took those sprites and finalized the designs, which were then used going forward. So, going, like, at least for many generations, there was a team of designers about 5 or 6 who all came up with designs. And then Ken Sugimori would finalize each and every design. Since then, he's sort of, I'm fairly certain he doesn't finish everything anymore.
No. So I've gone from starting from number 1, Bulbasaur, and then working my way down. And it isn't until you get to Kyogre and Groudon where where you suddenly think, like their colors aren't as muted. Like when you scroll back at all those original Pokemon, there aren't really any, overly bright colors. Even bright colors like red and yellow are very subdued and muted. And then you look at Groudon and okay, that's quite bright. And then as you start to scroll down, actually even Generation 4 has that kind of muted color palette which I think...
There you go. Sorry.
Go on.
Just to double check this. Gen 1 to 6, Sugimori worked on as art director and likely finalized most of the designs.
Okay. Which makes it, because I'm in Generation 5 now, and they all have the same kind of look, the black outlines that aren't too thick but have broken up a little bit, those muted colors that I apparently that's just the name of this episode of the podcast, just me saying muted colors. But yeah, like when you get to Generation 7, there is a slight difference, but not enough. Like, you still look at them and go, yeah, they're Pokemon. They still look like the same kind of style, but it's almost like
somebody turned the vibrance up.
Yes.
Somebody turned the vibrance and the contrast up.
Yes. That's probably the best way to describe it, because the Pokemon then suddenly of like those yellows, greens, and reds, which are very bright, are a lot more noticeable compared to how they used to be.
They're less natural as well.
I can understand that, yes.
You could certainly make an argument for it.
Which is, yeah, and like, obviously they've made a decision, but like part of me wonders, like, it can't be a coincidence that it was when they started to transition to 3D. That this change has happened. And it's probably because the 3D allowed them to be probably more, give them more expressions.
Oh, here's an argument. Okay, so I disagree.
Okay.
I think 3D ruined the expressivity of Pokemon. I think that's a word.
Okay, sorry. So, no,
expressiveness.
So, no. Sorry, yeah. I do I do agree with you, because with the pixel Pokemon, like, it allowed them to do more because less work was required, if that makes sense. And the moment they went to 3D, they then suddenly had to think about things in a 3D way rather than 2D where that things are flat. I'm of the opinion, and I know people will hate this, is that after seeing what's the name of the Nintendo Switch game? I can't remember, but it's basically a 2D game, a 2D sprite game, created, I think
Octopath?
Yeah, Octopath Traveler. Oh, that's the one. Thank you. I got there in the end.
He tells me about it almost every week,
and I couldn't remember it. But like, that is how you do. Like, somewhere along the line, people have almost said, like, chosen that, you know, sprites are outdated. Sprites shouldn't be used. I'm sorry, but like, sprite-based games still have merit. They still have value. And like, Pokemon going to 3D, I agree that at the time it was probably the right move as the technology evolved, and they, you know, a 2D sprite game might not have looked great on the 3DS, and it might have been seen as like not taking advantage of the hardware that was available to them. But you can't disagree that 2D has its merit of you can get away with cities not needing to be fleshed out and built, that it takes less time. I'd imagine from a gameplay development perspective that it takes less time because you haven't got to do all these models. You just have to do sprites, and you can reuse like pixel art and roots and the same trees over and over again. Like, that gets a free pass in 2D because that's what you expect. But Sword and Shield, everyone was up in uproar when, are they repeating the same tree? Well, what do you want them to do? Repeat this, like, create new trees all the time? Like, this is...
I just want them to auto-generate trees and have it set to just randomize, which is not difficult as far as game creation is concerned. Anyway, my point about the Pokemon specifically is that if you go back to Generation 5, they had learned a lot of tricks.
Yes.
So the Pokemon themselves look very expressive because they could come out and they could be in a pose.
Yes.
And just by moving a few pixels, they could have them shift and move and feel alive. They'd worked out all the little tricks, all the little hacks. As soon as we move to 3D, it's neutral stance, attacking stance, fainting stance. And that's it. And that's all you get. And it feels dull, and it feels boring, and it feels like everything is just stationary.
Yeah. But I agreed, because like the things, so like looking back, like giving Pokemon physical moves was a terrible decision in terms of how they look in 3D games, because special attacks work because, you just, okay, the flamethrower comes from its mouth and it stretches across the opponent. The problem with physical moves, it's like, okay, so are we going to animate every single Pokemon moving towards the opponent and then lifting legs for double kick, lifting their arms for scratch? Like, it gets very, very complicated and time consuming, whereas 2D pixel art, again, like, you don't need to worry about that. Like, it doesn't, you don't need to put as much work into 2D sprite-based games, because the problem with moving to 3D is suddenly you're comparing it to real life. And, okay, well, that doesn't look realistic. Well, no video game truly looks realistic. Whereas 2D, you could get away with it, unfortunately. Or for, better or worse, however you want to take it. But the problem is that the cat's kind of out the bag now. They can't, Generation 10, no mainline Pokemon game can go back to 2D sprites.
Yeah, unfortunately. As much as I'd love to see a spin-off.
Yeah, I would.
That went back to 2D.
So did, they remade one of the Mystery Dungeons games on the Switch. That was still 2D, right?
That was like 2.5D, I want to say.
2.5D, yeah. Okay. Which, like, no matter what you do, you're not going to please everybody. And, like, the artwork thing, for me, I get people's points, but I've got a feeling there'll be a subsection of the community that have, like, said this about Generation 8 and Generation 7. And just as time moves on and more people become aware of it, social media becomes more integrated into day-to-day life, that it starts to create that almost echo. And the more generations that go on, the more people have the opportunity to look at it, the more people that shout about it, the more people that are displeased. And you know what? Like, the majority of people just won't care. Like, unless you are the kind of player that is going on Bulbapedia or whatever site that you look at, you probably never see this official artwork because it doesn't really appear in game anyway.
No.
So it's kind of a mute point. Yeah, I've not really got anything else to say. Like, I'm looking through the artwork, and there are some that. Go on.
Let's do. Give me your favorites and give me your least favorites. Let's do it that way.
Okay, right. Okay. Point. So, Fuecoco, one of my favorites. It is so it has such expression. It looks happy. The red isn't as vibrant as it could be, which I quite like. It feels a lot more similar to the ones that that we used to have. Another one that I really like is Maschief. Even though I'm not a huge fan of that Pokemon, I still maintain it is just a dog. But I'm sorry. But it's the fact that, like, again, the colors, the brown just leaps out at you. The cheeky little face that he's got as well. Absolutely love that. I'm trying to just scrolling down. Annihilate. I love that. Like, just like when someone describes to you and goes, right, okay, I need a fighting monkey that's dead and looks angry. Like, it just the design just sums it up so much. Great Tusk. Love the colors of that Pokemon. I love the pink on it. The pink and who thought to put pink and grey together? Absolutely love that. And then in terms of the ones I hate or I dislike, sorry if I butcher this, Tinglu, one of the legendary Pokemon you can get in the game. It's the one that kind of looks like
the
rock
moose.
Deer? The moose, yeah. Like that. I like it in game, but I don't think the artwork works for it.
No, it does seem to be like facing away from us for some reason.
I don't know why they went for that. Frigibacks, I do not like its artwork. I know, right. It looks cute, but I do
He's like,
not.
I'm gonna get you.
Yeah, but I don't like. And I don't know whether or not it's the design of it or its artwork. I'm not sure. There's something about it that just doesn't seem right. It just doesn't sit well for me, unfortunately. Iron Bundle, like, not very... It's just stood there. Brute Bonnet we've already discussed. Again, just stood there. Who else? Like, Clodsire. I love Clodsire. Like, it's probably my favorite Pokemon from Generation 9. And it's just there being derpy. And I get that, like you said earlier, that's kind of its thing. But I'd want a little bit more. We've already discussed Glamora, and I've touched on Flamigo. Like, really just boring. A boring design. Cyclizar, I want its posing game where it's like roaring. Well, I'll get one more. I've got to find one more that I'm just meh about. And I think, looking at it, it's got to be... I never know how to pronounce this. I think it's Quaquaval, right? Like,
yeah.
We have a
Quaquaval.
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. We have a dancing Pokemon that cannot stand still, and you can't find a way to translate that to artwork.
A still image. Well,
like, it's just
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, you get what I mean. It's just stood there, and it's just boring. Like, the in-game...
And it hasn't got its big water feathers around it either.
No, you're
which
right,
I think
actually,
takes
yes.
away from its design.
Definitely. What about you? What are your favorites and what are your least favorites?
So, favorites, weirdly enough, I'm a big fan of the Pomo and Pomot ones, even though I said, like, they don't look like they evolved into each other here because the colors are all different and stuff like that. I still like the expressiveness of their designs. That stands out a lot to me. Let's have a look. What's that? Toad School, again, very expressive. Scovillain, very expressive.
Oh, yes. Oh, I love Scovillains.
Let's have a look. Primate or Annihilate, as you said. Yeah. Dondozo, I love. Tatsugiri's a lot of fun because you find out, like, it's got the droopy form, the stretchy form, the curly form, which are apparently based off the different kinds of nigiri you can get. Different kinds of sushi rolls. It's great. And Arctibax. I know you don't like Frigibax, but Arctibax looks really cool. Yeah. I wish they'd followed this design through more with Baxcalibur. I wish we'd had an actual Spinosaurus Pokemon. Yes. It would have been awesome.
Just the one. I get why they did it when you look at its signature move, but I agree that they should have leaned more into the Godzilla element, the Kaiju element, and had a load of those spines going down.
And Chiempao.
I love that. Yes.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's such a cool looking Pokemon. As for ones I dislike, probably gonna say Iron Treads. Again, it's doing nothing for me. Oh, Sandy Shocks. I love Sandy Shocks in this.
Sandy Shocks is amazing. Yeah.
Iron Treads does nothing for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Cetitan, as I mentioned earlier. And weirdly enough, Cetoddle, its arms look way bigger than I feel like they should be.
No, you're right there. They feel like, how have we never noticed that before? They look really stretched out.
Yeah. Glamora is, every time I see it, it catches my eye and not in a good way.
Yeah.
Palafin.
Like,
I get
why that one? Why
that one? Yes. Because it's literally the same artwork.
Because it is literally the same artwork, except for a handful of pixels where the heart is observed. Like, because okay, I'd argue that Palafin's hero form is its true form, right?
Well, you can click on it and go and see its hero form.
Yeah.
But no, it just winds me up. That Pokemon winds me up. So obviously it's art. The fact that they played into it and we're like, no, we're not even going to redesign it. We're just going to use the same, the same structure, the same stance. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, it's
infuriating.
It's weird seeing those two next to one another because it looks like an error.
Wiglet. I'm not a fan of Wiglet because it just does nothing. It's just stood there. Boring. Let's have a look. Wattrel is probably the last one. I like Wattrel. I like Wattrel a lot, but for some reason this one looks like it's like.
So the Wattrel the Wattrel to me looks like Finding Nemo, the pigeon. No, the seagulls.
Mine.
That's what it looks like. It looks like you're a tasty snack. It's just identified you, and it's gonna come get you.
Yeah, I don't know. I do not like its eyes, and it looks a little bit goofy. And
I get that. Yeah, I can understand that.
So yeah, overall, is it worth a controversy? No, of course not. No. Most things in Pokemon aren't. But Are they as good as some previous designs? I think we've made arguments either way.
Yeah, definitely. Let's move on to Pokemon Master Journeys, our weekly episode discussion, which we haven't done in 2 weeks. Has it been 2 weeks since we did it?
Ish. I think it's been 3.
It might have been. It has been so long because
I think the last time we talked about Master Journeys, we were sat together.
Oh, it was. So that was right. Yeah. Wow. End of December, wasn't it? That.
Yeah.
Wow.
Start of January.
Yes. Wow. Okay. Well, we're back with our regular scheduled content, where we continue watching Pokemon Master Journeys, and this week, the first episode is episode 34, The Sweet Taste of Battle, where isn't really much of a battle, is there?
No, this episode is an entire tease, unfortunately.
It is, yeah. It doesn't go where you expect it to. So just to kind of set the scene, we meet Opal again, which I'd completely forgot that we'd already met her. And at the Ballonlea gym, Leon's there, along with Go, Ash,
and Raihan,
and
Chloe.
And Chloe, yes.
Because Chloe comes along for a battle in Galar for some reason.
Oh, I missed that. Right. Wait, she wants to battle?
No, she doesn't want to battle. That's it. She wants to come and check up on the Ponyta. Because she met Opal before with the Ponyta and the Rapidash, didn't she?
That was it. So the lot of them get into a battle of sorts, where they are literally just making cakes. And is it Go that's quite good at it? I'm trying to remember.
So Chloe is good. So they're decorating cakes with alchemy. Go catches his own milcery and then spins around with it, and it evolves, which is I saw that coming immediately.
Oh, did you?
Nice touch.
Yeah,
nice touch. And then yes, they are decorating cakes as this form of battle, and whoever wins, I think, wins the right to fight Opal. I think that's the whole point of this. Chloe's naturally good. Go would be good, but Grookey keeps eating all of his. Raihan is okay, but he's more about the picturesque look of it because, Instagrammer and all that, rather than the taste. And Ash, despite how he may seem that he's just grabbing everything and throwing it on there, creates this really unique flavor that Opal really loves, and wins the competition. If that seems like a really short explanation, it's because this episode really isn't great.
I enjoyed it for what it was, but I must admit, I thought the initial part was the build up to the battle between Opal and Ash. I thought that was what we were getting here. That Ash...
And we kind of get that.
Well, we kind of do, but not in the way that you expect, because Opal Gigantamax's alchemy, and I was like, okay, this is going to be really interesting to see how this Pokemon battles. And Pikachu apparently Gigantamax's, but then it's just ate a lot of food, apparently.
Yeah, it ate all of Alchemy's cream attack, and that... I can't remember what they said. It doesn't Gigantamax.
It's a Feastamax.
Feastamax.
Cool. This episode was a tease. It was building up to something that it never got delivered. And it's one of the disappointments that I have in the journey so far is that the great thing about the previous series was that because it followed so closely in the gym path, you got to give time and spotlight to all the gym leaders. We haven't really had this in this season. Obviously, Bay is the one that has had the most limelight because Ash has fought her twice now. Opal has been in a handful of episodes. I would love to see more of Opal because to me, she is one of the standout gym leaders just in terms of personality. Ryan, we've seen a little bit of. I can't remember if we've seen any of the rest of them, but I guess that's my point, is that I want to see more of these gym leaders. I want to see them in their element. I want to see Ash battling them because it seems like for an episode, for a series that keeps going back to Galar, we're not seeing a lot of the great parts of Galar from the game.
Yeah.
So, like, while I can admire they've done something here different and unique, i.e., having them do this kind of, Great British Bake Off, like, you like, surely they must be able to understand people would watch the first half of this episode thinking this is leading to a battle.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, again, I think the twist was supposed to be a joke.
Yeah.
I just don't think it landed.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you there. So, I enjoyed the episode for what it was, but I must admit I was disappointed. Should we move on to episode 35, Star Night, Star
Can we skip this one, please?
Because it's very, very upsetting.
this one had me in tears. I won't even lie. It's so bad. And the thing is, I watched it and I was like, I mean, they're not going there, right? Pokemon wouldn't go there. Oh, no, they went there.
Like, with a child as well.
Uh-huh.
Like, if it was an older person, like, I guess it wouldn't be as much of a shock because you'd think, well, this person is old, therefore surely they would have lost Pokemon throughout their life. This is a child. This is what, a 5-6-year-old child? Maybe? I don't know.
So for our audience at home, this episode is about a little girl who comes in contact with an unknown, wishes for it to always be night in this town where she lives. And we later find out the reason she wishes it was always night is because she's looking for Clefairy's star, because Clefairy was her Pokemon, who she thinks she lost. Her parents told her, no, Clefairy returned to the stars, and she's a star up there now, because Clefairy died.
It's the equivalent of, the dog went to live on the farm. So it's dead. It's up in the stars, unfortunately. It was a great episode. Like, this is just a great example, I think, of where Pokemon shines, where any other, like, series would all be focused on the battling, whereas Pokemon really shines in these episodes where it allows you to get to, I guess, the heart of how people are feeling, not even the main characters, sometimes just random people.
Yeah.
And you get to, like, experience the feelings, the hurt, the sorrow, the joy, the hope, whatever it might be. And this is just one of those episodes where, you have 20 minutes per episode, and like the previous one, like, it felt like 20 minutes was stretched out. This is one of those episodes where it felt like 20 minutes wasn't enough. Like,
I think they paced it very well for what they had, but yes, this could easily have been. I mean, let's not pretend like this couldn't have been a movie, because like Spell of the Unknown isn't far off this movie. It isn't far off this episode.
And we've not even mentioned this. Cynthia's in it. Like, literally the champion of one of the regions is in it, and it's not even like it's just played off as not even a big thing, is it? It's just Cynthia's here. Like, oh, okay.
Although I think they're building it up because it's mentioned that she's in the Masters 8.
Yeah.
So they're obviously introducing those now.
Yeah, I've got a feeling over the next couple of weeks as we watch more of these episodes, we will start to see more of the bigger players that Ash will. Because I think most people already know now that, that there are, like you say, that there's the 8 of them and who they are. We know Ash is one, we know Leon's one, Cynthia's one. And, it's been revealed who some of the other ones are. Well, it's been revealed who all of them are. I can't remember them off the top of my head. We're going to start seeing more of them, which I really am looking forward to be honest with you, because Ash and Cynthia have previously met, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Because
they many times.
Because I'm pretty sure they because it's been a while since I watched the episode now. I'm pretty sure they actually have the discussion, and Ash is like, "Oh, Cynthia, you're here." It's like, "Oh, okay." So they have met one another, and like, it was good. What I did enjoy about this is that the unknown have cast this wish for was it Tiara, the little girl? And like, the unknown step in to defend it, like defend this wish, to keep this wish alive, and Cynthia and Ash have to overcome the unknowns, which can transform into fake whatever the Pokemon they're using. And from what I remember, Ash isn't the one that wins this fight. It's Cynthia, isn't it? Just to kind of show how strong she is with her Garchomp.
Garchomp.
Yeah. And then to wrap it all up, we get an emotional scene watching Tiara cry over the loss of a Clefairy, and then flashbacks of her growing up with Clefairy, just because, let's just make people more emotional than they already are. A great episode, like a really good episode.
Yeah, really well presented, really well handled, considering the topic.
Yes. Yeah, it's like, how do you address the, death to children watching this? Yeah. And I think they handle it quite well, to be honest with you.
Agreed.
They because there's always that room where either they go too far and it's like, okay, this is a bit too serious and dark for children, or they go the other way where it's not clear enough and it's very vague and therefore it loses the impact. Whereas they straddled the line really well, I think, for both children and adults, of conveying, Pokemon die and this is how it would make people feel, and let's explore that. So really good episode.
Enjoyed it a lot.
The next episode 36, an adventure of mega proportions. We're just from the name alone, you know what's coming here, folks. Ash is watching Karina back in Kalos, watching her at Lucario Mega Evolve. So straight away, we know what's coming, right?
Yeah, it has to be. Surely, Ash wants to Mega Evolve his Lucario, because we've seen. Because when when his Lucario was still Riolu, it watched Serena. Not Serena. What's her name?
Faye? Karina?
No. Karina. Sorry, there it is. Serena's a Pokemon. He made Riolu sit on the side and watch his battle with Karina while she Mega Evolved. So, much in the same way as we had with, what's his name? Sobble. Seeing Inteleon and always wanting to be that. We've now seen Riolu always want to Mega Evolve, and now it's getting the chance. Maybe.
Before it can do that, though, they need to retrieve Lucarionite, which, I'm completely on board. I'm on board with it not just being handed to Ash. And they have to go to the creatively named Mega Island, which couldn't come up with a better name, I guess. Just Mega Island. Which,
it's where all the mega stuff happens.
Apparently so. So team going on an adventure. It's a bit of a trial, trying to track down the Keystone. And from what I remember, Ash has to battle. Was it the Mega Evolution Sage? Who was obviously Karina's granddad? Yeah, obviously. Like, who else would it be? And we get to see a battle between Mega Alakazam versus Lucario, which, for a battle between arguably two of the most, I want to say, powerful Mega Evolutions in terms of like how they come across between Mega Alakazam's like pure psychic prowess and Lucario's fighting ability. I remember being quite disappointed with the battle.
Yeah, so this is one I feel gets hurt a lot by the time constraint and what appears to be the lack of budget. Because Alakazam just kind of floats in the air.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking there was a lot of times where Lucario jumped up towards it, and then you'd cut to Ash going, "Oh no, Lucario!" and Lucario would be on the ground. I'm like, oh, okay, this is where we're at.
Yeah, which is a shame because surely, seeing Mega Pokemon in battle is where the animation budget, whenever it's one of the gimmicks, I guess, is where that money, that time should go. But I don't do whatever they do for a living, so I don't know how difficult, time consuming it might be. But I wanted more from this fight.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted a little bit more from this episode. We don't even see Lucario Mega Evolve.
No, you're right. For something called Mega Island, if you go into somewhere called Mega Island, for me, it should be a case of, okay, if you want to go there, Ash, and try to get Lucarionite, you need to be aware that it is one of the most dangerous islands around because there are just naturally powerful Pokemon there because there would be, right? And therefore, Ash, you need to, prep your strongest team. And unfortunately, anyone that isn't able to hold their own, we cannot allow to go there. It is guarded off for, a reason. And, maybe it is a case that, Ash gets there and what he has to fight is, another Lucario or a Mega Lucario or whoever it might be. Something that makes Ash go, okay, I need this item. I have to fight for this item, but I can't Mega Evolve in this battle. So I need to prove that I'm good enough without the Mega Stone. And therefore, that is the reason why I get it, because it's obvious that, him and the bond that he has between him and Lucario is strong enough that a Mega Stone won't make up for a lack of that. It will just improve.
They do try and do an element of that with the aura thing, where basically because Ash gets hold of a Mega Ring,
Keystone,
a Mega Glove,
Keystone.
There you go. Because Ash gets hold of a Keystone, suddenly Lucario can use his aura to track down the Mega Stone. They get separated, and then the two of them have to use their aura to track each other down and find the location of the stone. So it's brought up a couple of times of like, wow, you really do have a connection with it. Wow, this is showing that your Mega Evolution is going to be really strong because you have this bond. And Ash has been shown to be able to use aura since one of the movies with Lucario in it, where he was he basically replaced Aaron the Aura Guardian. But that's neither here nor there. They tried. I think, as you say, this episode was a lot of build up with not the greatest payoff.
Yeah.
And I think it suffers for that reason.
And I agree with you there. And it'll be interesting to see if we think the reason why is because next week Ash is battling Bay again. So it'll be interesting to see if that is, is all show, all flash, all animation. And then we go, okay, actually, it makes sense, because why would you want to have two average episodes in terms of the quality of animation when you could have one that doesn't need it, and then the one that does need it is heightened because it's you can invest the time and energy and money into creating an episode that is really, energetic, and you've got all these great animations. So it'd be interesting to see, looking back next week, if we stand by what we said.
Yep, we'll wait to see.
Conor, you up for playing a game?
Oh, it's been a little while.
It has. Okay. Perfect. In front of me, I have 3 Pokemon, 3 Pokedex entries each. But Conor, can you spot the fake entry? We are going to start with Garchomp. Pokedex entry number 1. The star on its head was thought to be a warning. However, there are no predators capable of hunting this Pokemon. Pokedex entry number 2. It flies at speeds equal to a jet fighter plane. It never allows its prey to escape. And the third and final Pokedex entry, and I'm sorry if I butcher this pronunciation, the protuberances on its head serve as sensors. It can even detect distant prey. Okay.
So I know the second one's true. I don't think you're going to include a word like protuberance. So I'm going to go with the first one. To be fair, when I heard the first one, I was like, that doesn't sound right.
Okay, you are correct. It is the first one. Well done.
Okay.
Pokemon number 2 is Alakazam. So, first Pokedex entry. Closing both its eyes heightens all its other senses. This enables it to use its abilities to their extremes. Pokedex entry number 2. Alakazam.
Oh, sorry, I missed that. Can you go again?
Yeah, sure.
My brain just completely shut off for a second.
Am I that boring? Is that what it is? Oh, no.
No.
Right, Pokedex entry number 1. Closing both its eyes heightens all its other senses. This enables it to use its abilities to their extremes. Pokedex entry number 2. Alakazam's brain continually grows, making its head far too heavy to support with its neck. This Pokemon holds...
Hang on. I know its brain continuously grows. I know that's true. There's no way it says its head is...
Let me continue.
Support.
This Pokemon holds its head up using its psychokinetic power instead. And the third and final Pokedex entry, it is unknown if the spoons that Alakazam holds are real or psychic projections, as even trusty trainers are forbidden from touching them.
Okay, interesting.
He's still...
So I know the bit about its brain continuously growing is true. So
Okay.
I don't think you would include half of a truth and then not the rest. So that doesn't seem right.
Okay.
The first one was what? It closes its eyes and its powers get better.
Yeah.
And then the third one is its spoons might not be real. Which is possible because I don't know if you ever read the Pokemon Adventures manga.
No, I didn't.
So in that, Mewtwo fights with a spoon.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it fights with a giant spoon because it's supposed to be like how shows psychic powers and stuff like that.
Right.
Yuri Geller and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
I think I'm gonna go with the first one then.
Okay. You're incorrect. It was the third one with the spoons, I'm afraid.
Okay, interesting. Good. I like that.
Thank you.
It was a good dex entry.
Thank you very much. And the third and final Pokemon is Clefairy. Because of its silhouette, it's believed to be a star reborn. For some reason, it loves Minior. Pokedex entry number 2. Said to have ridden here on a shooting star, Clefairy seems to appear in places where meteorites have struck in the past. And the third and final Pokedex entry. Despite its cute appearance and playful disposition, Clefairy have been known to play tricks on strangers lost in the mountains.
Okay, I'm gonna take a wild leap in logic here
Okay.
and say the most interesting thing about Clefairy, as far as the dex entries are concerned, is that it is star-shaped and likely comes from space. So I'm gonna say the third one's not true.
You are correct. Well done. 2 out of 3 on your first attempt back after, don't know, the last time we did this. It'll be the same time we did. It'll be when we were in person, won't it?
Some time ago.
Wow! Forever ago. So 2 out of 3. Well done. Let's move on to comments and questions. This week we've got a question courtesy of Tony over on YouTube. Oh, I don't know if I told you this before. before we.
Yeah, no, I checked it out. It's
Okay,
fine.
thank
I do read the comments.
Okay, good.
I just don't respond to them because I'm a terrible content creator.
Ooh.
But I do read them.
Good. If Legends game continues due to popular demand, how would you feel if the traditional main story games fade from existence because of it, taking the gym format with them, and Legends becomes the new main series games?
So this is obviously coming off the back of our last week's episode, where we basically said we preferred Legends Arceus to Scarlet and Violet, and got some flack for that.
We did, yeah.
Some people tend to disagree with us there, which is fine. You're entitled to your opinion. I can't force you to be right. I don't. The worst thing is, I looked into some of the sales figures for Pokemon, and outside of a straight remake, Legends Arceus did not sell that well.
Oh, really? No.
I think I would have to double check, but I'm pretty sure it's the worst selling Switch Pokemon game.
Oh, that actually hurts my heart a little bit.
I know. So we know that, and we've argued before that, we're not likely to see a Let's Go game because I don't think it did the numbers they wanted it to. Well, if that's the case,
yeah,
Legends certainly wouldn't have done then.
No.
And it's funny because those of us who played the game, we who played the game have said, I love it. I wish they'd bring a lot of that stuff over. I want to see this again. But I know a lot of people who just never touched it because it wasn't their Pokemon.
I get that.
It's not my Pokemon game kind of thing.
I think, and we'll jump into the what Tony said, but I kind of want to go off on a tangent here. I kind of feel like they need to look at those sales figures and understand there are other circumstances that will have affected on it. We got 3 Pokemon games in the space of around a year. Like, there will be some parents out there that go, well, I'm only getting 1 of them, or I'm only getting 2 of them, and I'm not getting all 3. I'm like, money doesn't stretch as far as it used to, and therefore you do have to make decisions on which ones you are going to get. Remakes always, I think, sell well, simply because, it's just nostalgia. At this point,
you make a point. It came out in January as well.
Exactly.
Which is like the dead period.
Yes.
Nothing should release in January.
No. Like, I think if this had come out in November or December, it would have had higher sales figures. I think you have to look at the Let's Go sales figures and take into consideration that was that just higher than other Let's Go games would sell because it was the first Pokemon game on a Switch? Like I don't think they can just look at the sales figures, but unfortunately money talks in business. And, they might look at it and go, well, Scarlet and Violet made an absolute killing for us, so why would we not pursue more games like this? And it might be a case of, the Legends game was made by a team that obviously wanted to try something new. And they might turn around and go, listen, we let you have your moment, and unfortunately it didn't sell the numbers that we wanted, therefore, remakes Generation 10 for foreseeable future. I don't know. So I don't see Legends becoming the de facto Pokemon experience, so I don't think we need to worry about that. And
I don't think I want that either.
No, exactly.
I enjoy Pokemon games.
Yes, agreed. I think for me, it is nice to have those almost palate cleansers between the main generation games, because it does help you to go, okay, right, we played Gen 8, Sword and Shield, and then between that, we got a remake which was similar in some way. Like that, it was same kind of the typical Pokemon experience. But then we had Legends Arceus, which was a palate cleanse. It was a different time zone with, different gameplay mechanics. And then when you come back to Scarlet and Violet, it's like, okay, yeah, I've missed this because it has been a couple of years since I managed to have this typical Pokemon experience. So, like, for me, the balance there is that between each mainline game, you get something that's a bit different to keep you interested and to let you experience Pokemon in a different way. So, to answer your question, Tony, like, while I praised Legends Arceus last week, I wouldn't want that to be the only Pokemon experience.
No, it stands out because it is different.
Yeah.
If everybody's special, nobody is. It comes down to that again.
Exactly. If you've got a comment or question, you can reach us by leaving a comment on our podcast on YouTube, by emailing goldenrodpod@gmail.com, or by leaving it on our Discord channel. Conor, what have you got coming up?
This week, I believe I am releasing my video about the original ending of the Pokemon anime, what was initially intended by the writer, and whether or not Ash was ever supposed to actually have a daughter.
Oh, okay. Looking forward to that. As for me, I'm working on another challenge video. It's not going to take as long as the last one. I promise. I am halfway. No, actually, I'm probably about a third of the way through recording the actual content. I'm aiming to have the content done this week. So probably looking at about a 2-week turnaround as of listening to this, because I need to get these out. Do you want to know which Pokemon I'm using?
Can we?
I'll tell you if you really want to.
Go on.
It's Cyclizar. I've got to...
that's fair.
I've got to know if Cyclizar can beat it because of the links with Miraidon and Koraidon, however tenuous they may be. But also, I wanted to choose a Pokemon that would still be a challenge, but not as much as a challenge as Paldean Wooper, who... I love Paldean Wooper, but it is not a Pokemon that's built to tackle endgame content, unfortunately. So that's the show for this week. If you've gotten this far, you're just the top dollar, aren't you? Conor, where can we find you?
You can find me on my YouTube channel at Captain Fidget, or on Twitter at CapFidget.
Perfect. And I'm Ben. You can find me as Professor Hoenn Gaming on YouTube and Professor Hoenn on Twitter. As for the Goldenrod Podcast, you can find us on the usual platforms. Search for Goldenrod Podcast on YouTube or on your usual podcast app. Leave a like on YouTube or a 5-star review if you're listening as a podcast. We'll be back next week for another... No! We'll be back next Friday for another week of Pokemon podcast content.
See ya? What happened there?